The fact is that we have now a worldwide movement. A worldwide movement. People have said not since Vietnam has it been such a movement, or not since the Spanish Civil War in the 1930s. There has never been the like of it. Never, ever, ever been the like of this. We have got people, as the centre of Bogota was occupied by tens of thousands of people. Chile and Mexico, Canada, there's a mass movement which is shaking sort of the government institutions over there. All that has been brought about by people marching, coming together in large numbers. And I say that because sometimes when we're dealing with, say, Palestine more than other places, everything, you do get a sense of futility. You know, sort of you're marching through Derry or standing at Free Derry Corner, speaking to 200 people and so on. You know, and you do get the feeling sort of that what we are doing is totally out of proportion to the task which is before us. And that sense of one of the most sort of depressing things about politics, as well as modern politics, but all the time, I suppose, is that sense that there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. Well, there is something we can do. And we should always remember that if there's 20 of us, or 50 of us, or 500 of us gathered in the centre of Letterkenny, or in the Guildhall Square in Derry, sort of think of future, that they keep in mind that we are part of something huge which is happening all over the world. You know, and that we are not alone in Palestine. Is not alone. And what we see sort of as seen and talked to some of our friends from the Jewish community who are involved sort of in this campaign, sort of it gives you heart, and it throws the lie in the teeth sort of supporters of the Israeli regime that this is an anti-Semitic movement. It is not. It is not. It's never sort of anti-one a group of people or one ethnicity to stand for the liberty of another group. They're not in contradictions. They go together. And when we say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, clouds in full say, look, that's anti-Semitic because you're talking about the erasure sort of Israel. From the river to the sea means freedom for all the people from the river to the sea. As far as I'm concerned, it means freedom for Jews, freedom for Muslims, freedom for Christians, whoever else is there, freedom for Druze, freedom for all these people. So the idea that freedom for the Palestinian people is in some way contradictory to freedom for anybody else is absolute nonsense, and we shouldn't allow that to happen. We shouldn't allow ourselves to be put off by that. We got one of my political heroes or heroines a long time ago. I remember when I was still in college. I don't know if the name's remembered anymore. Leila Khaled. Leila Khaled. Leila Khaled, the PFLP, when I read. She was the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. And they took to hijacking planes. You know, it's not something I've ever told you myself, but I can see about that situation. Hijacking planes would be the least where it's going. Leila was among a number of people that hijacked the plane, was landed at Gatwick or Heathrow, I forget which one, in which they made a series of demands. If you want your plane back, we want you to do X, Y, and Z. But anyway, she was they parked up the plane, and then, of course, and surrounded by army and cops and everything else, and she finished up at Bow Street Magistrates Court with a number of others. And I've been involved in all sorts of things down through the years. You know, some of them I look back and I think, oh Jesus, why did I do that? You know, but there's other things to say, I'm glad I did that. And I remember being outside the court when Leila was up before magistrates, and the reason I was outside the court is that a group was making a bid for bail for the people accused of the hijacking. And I remember sort of that the three people who went in to the police station and offered to go bail, demanded that to be allowed to go bail, sort of were Bernadette Devlin, Edna O'Brien, and Vanessa Redgrave. It's good company. Good company to be in. I was trotting along at the side, sort of trying to edge my way out of the photographs. So there's always been something. There's always Palestine. There's always been a Palestinian struggle. The idea that it started a year ago, or a decade ago, or half century ago, or a century ago, whatever, it's always been there. It's always been there. Not just in our lifetime, but in the lifetime of our grandparents. It has been there. So when we're marching today, we're continuing a struggle, sort of, and assisting others or cheering on others, and sort of in their sort of endless struggle. Remember that the don't often quote the BBC sort of in these things, but there's the man who was the Middle East correspondent for the BBC back in the late 1940s, a man called Erskine Childers. If the name rings a bell, he's the nephew, sort of, the nephew of the Erskine Childers from 1916, the Civil War, sort of, and all that, and the uncle of Gary, who was become president. But Erskine Childers was the BBC's Middle Eastern correspondent at the time. Anyway, he wrote an article in, of all places, The Listener, the BBC's official magazine, describing what he had seen, sort of in Palestine, describing what he thought the issues were. And he ended by saying, the writing, if you go among them today, in the hills above Judea, and point through the barbed wire, they will say, look, over there, that White House, that is my home. And so it was, and so it still is. And it was a shame on the face of the world that all this time later, the Palestinian people are still as far from home as ever. We must ensure that that doesn't persist. And we can match the indomitable persistency of the Palestinian people in fighting for their liberation, that we at least can manage the path, the roadway forward, to support them, to shout out support for the Palestinian people, and to demand the practical actions which could be taken. Send the Israeli ambassador from Dublin home. Now that in itself would be a diplomatic incident. But I mean, if countries of Venezuela can do it, why can't we? Why can't Ireland do it? There should be, our demands on our marches and our demonstrations and letters or everything else. Send the Israeli ambassador home. It's offensive when the Israeli ambassador comes on our televisions and talks about the need to combat anti-Semitism. And she's representing sort of a government which is at this moment in occupation of and involved in the oppression of the Palestinian people. We shouldn't allow that to happen. And the point I'm making is that we can stop it happening. But only by yourselves, looking to all, it's grand, I do it. To demand that MPs and TDs and the rest of them will stand up and be counted on the side of Palestine, on the right side of history. Of course we could do that, and all that is worthwhile. But at the end of the day, it's us. It's not sort of, and if I might say so, Lila and her comment, she's still around, Lila Cameron, actually. I mean, I think she's as old as me. She would be.
She's an Amman, I think. She's in Jordan.
She's in Jordan, yeah. And still as militant and sharp-minded as ever. So
yes.
The only sort of thing I've seen with her in a long time. They said just the persistency of the Palestinian people is an example to the world. It really is. And every now and again we're embarking on struggles, even if it's only a little small, sort of local thing. You frequently draw our breath and say, I wonder if I could do this. We'd be arrested. Which I think of that sometimes, do I really want to do this, or be beaten up by the cops or whatever? I mean, think. I just sort of share the mind space of Palestinian people, and they're sort of under a occupation since 1947, 1948. You got to think of that sort of in your mind, and think of the fact that there are people who hesitate, say, on the side of the Palestinian people, but they're not going to insult or alienate Joe Biden. There are. They mean well, I think. That idea that you shouldn't do anything that the most powerful people that you can talk to are going to object to, that's no way to win freedom for anybody. That's never the way in Ireland that people were able to come forward and have themselves represented in our world affairs as an independent nation. So, all really I have got to say, sort of, and introducing you, as if to say, I hope you know how much inspiration you have given. We might be marching in Letterkenny and saying to people, it's a free Palestine from the river to the sea. That's fine. I do it myself. But we shouldn't forget, in the midst of all that, it's not a matter of political principle. It's a matter of human values at the end of the day. So when we fight to free Palestine, we fight to free ourselves.
Yeah.
Because there can't be sort of oppression in the world, and we say, well, we're not interested in that, we're not active on that, but we want freedom for us. You can't say that. Well, you can, but you're a hypocrite. You know, so all I've got to say really, and saying welcome to Dr. Kenny, is that, as I was saying, sir, I hope you know how much support there is for the Palestinian cause. And I hope that somehow, vaguely, tell this final story, sorry about that. Sorry. She says, never going to stop. I am going to stop. Just about 1 minute. But it just strikes it. I remember being in a refugee camp, Palestinian refugee camp in Lebanon, in a town called Cana, which I think is the town where allegedly Jesus turned the water into wine. And I mentioned that when I was talking in a mosque in the village of Cana, and the imam was sitting on a little raised throne, I don't know what you'd call it. And I started by saying, and there were dignitaries and whatnot there. And I started by saying, I'm very pleased to be in this. And the only thing I knew about Cana before this war started is that this is the place where Jesus is supposed to have turned water into wine. The imam, sitting in a splendid beside me, said, not everybody believes that's true. Which is a great thing, it knocks somebody off their balance. I can tell you. But the thing I did know is that we were putting up a plaque to people who were killed with the help of Irish weapons, or Irish weapons that were, sort of the Irish government have been involved in, or if not involved with those who were involved. So, that's the Black Shamrock commemorates that. That's where Black Shamrock comes from that period of that campaign, which had some success. But the best thing that I discovered out there was when somebody mentioned the Raytheon closure to me. In the village of Cana, where people had been, there'd been 27 people killed in one bombing, and previous to that, by a few weeks, there was a United Nations compound, in southern Lebanon, bombed. 100 people had died. 100 people from that little area. Cana's a village. That's what it is. It's a village. But very interesting thing about Cana is that the biggest religious institution there is the Catholic Church. Now that amazed me. What? With all this, we went to talk to the priest, who's an Orthodox priest and so on, and to say that he was militantly in favour of Hezbollah that would be something of a diminution of it. It was the most militant person in favour of Hezbollah that we met out there, because there were people there, and this surprised me as well. They were quite openly critical. I would say, they should have done this. There was a big complaint about the post office. People were denouncing Hezbollah, the post office was closed half the time. I didn't expect that complaint, we got that on Park Avenue in Derry at the minute. But the most delightful thing about being there is that some people, not all of them, but the mayor of Cana, he probably not looked it up before, I don't know, the mayor of Cana, and welcome us. This was in a graveyard, burial ground, where he was speaking. We were erecting sort of a little plaque to those who had been killed, in Cana. And what amazed me about it is that, I'm not saying this was true yet, he knew about Ireland. He knew about the campaign for Palestinian freedom in Ireland. He didn't know in detail, but he came up and shook our hands, or 10 of us there, and sort of thanked us, which was embarrassing, because what was he thanking us for, Anyway, there's a wee pamphlet on the Raytheon 9, which includes a description of all that, which I would urge people to read. And all I'd say is that when we see people fighting for their freedom, fighting against oppression, we should know from our own history that this is the greatest cause that people have ever fought for, or ever lived for, or ever died for. And we can say that if that be the cause which the Palestinian people represent, which they do, then they stand, and I quote Roger Casement in his last remark, he said, "We stand in goodly company and in right noble succession." That is the way we should look at Palestine, and keep in mind that if Palestine is free, none of us is free. Free ourselves.
Thank you so much. I don't really have to say anything else, right? We're done here, yeah? So I wanted to just give this as a gift, as a symbolic gift of our gratitude and thanks for your
Thank
support
you very
over
much.
decades. BADIL, my organization, creates a Nakba commemoration t-shirt every year. And so this year, this is our Nakba commemoration t-shirt. It was done by a young Palestinian artist, a young girl from a refugee camp. And then here is the back. So just wanted to do that and then say thank you so much.